The first question is about, under our theme, Mission and Older People, is about the words older people. I want you to tell us, Ian, from your particular perspective and role, what this description means to you.
Older people, well, they are us. We're all aging, and we're all going to be older people. They are us is the quote from Harriet Mowat. At Mayfield Salisbury, we're a lively, active congregation, but much, not all, but much of the action is led and executed by older people, the active elderly, if you like, or the active retired, if you like. But who are we? Some of us are still working. Some of us are disabled. Some of us have families. Some of us don't have families. We're a huge bunch, just a great mixture of people who happen to be older. We're poets, we're musicians, we're people. At Mayfield Salisbury, we have a series of festivals, and in 2011, our festival was celebrating ageing and faith. And in order to plan that festival, we asked the experts about ageing and faith, and that was a group of older people in the congregation. They became known as the Wisdom Group, and then became affectionately known as the Wise Women. And their task was to tell us what they felt about ageing, and what they wanted as they aged. They came up with some interesting answers. They wanted to carry on learning. They wanted to continue to be able to be creative, to be active within the capacity that was available to them. And they wanted to socialize. They wanted to have fun. And that was what they felt would be a good part of a healthy old age. And that included celebrating their faith. What they significantly said was that we're all working towards why faith matters. Of course, not all older people have the confidence to articulate that or are able to communicate that. So that's part of the journey that we took with a particular project, our celebration of ageing and faith, and what followed from that into the context of today's discussion.
From your perspective and role, what does mission mean when you put it alongside the words older people? Would you like to launch us on in that?
As a local church, we're interested in the well-being of everybody in the community. So that's our members, but also all the other people in our local community. The term parish is not helpful. It's sort of it's churchy language. So we've been using words like community more. And so this sort of move to include everybody at whatever level they would like has become part of our way of working. We're particularly, I think, acknowledging that there are people, we have to acknowledge that we're dealing with isolation and loneliness, but we equally have to acknowledge that there are opportunities for people if we can just get the access right as part of our whole style, if you like. To go back to our Wise Women, this series of festivals, they were conceived as mission tools. They covered different subjects. Currently we're doing sacred music. We've done science, reason and religion. But ageing and faith started off as a celebration. But it quickly moved into something that was a little deeper, if you like. But our Wise Women captured a phrase that we stole from Faith in Older People, from FEOP. And that was keeping the spirit alive. And that almost became their mantra. You know, we can run with this one. But they did say things like, other people should recognize that old age is the hardest part of our spiritual journey. Um, it's it's not but our understanding of faith, our exploration of faith, it's not something that stops as you get old, and other people have to acknowledge that and work with that with us. So there was a fairly positive message coming out, clear, that, don't put us in a corner, we want to hear it as it is. So our mission in that sense involved building on what was already in place. There are lots of things, lots of activities that were around, so we were building on them, looking at the individual groups in the church, but also in the community. We were not wanting to duplicate. We wanted to sort of be part of a whole, part of everything that was being done in the community. And that involves getting engaged in agencies that perhaps we've just joined the Edinburgh Interfaith Association. I don't think that many churches are part of that. But we feel that's the right direction for us to take as the church within the whole community. We worked on the different elements the Wisdom Group had identified about socializing, about being creative, and we had a series of activities that fed into the Golden Age project. We were one of the churches that participated in the Golden Age project. Now there I'm stuck. Thank you, friend. And we looked at how we could engage the whole congregation and the wider community, our neighbouring churches as well, in looking at this whole business of ageing. So we had a session conference which dealt with, it was called Winding Down and Revving Up, which was a quote from an old lady who said that was what old age was about. It was about winding down, but I'm not finished yet, I'm revving up. And we had people like John Starr, an eminent geriatrician, and the director of the Alzheimer's Scotland's Dementia Project, to talk to us about all of the issues that were relevant to ageing across society in Scotland today. And we had a whole session, a big, heavy session on ageing and spirituality from Harriet Mowat, from Mowat Research. So we were engaging intellectually with the whole project. It was education, it was awareness raising. And we involved FEOP at every level we could. I think maybe develop that in another question, but we brought in FEOP's skills in supporting organisations about this whole spiritual care for older people, but how we as a whole church and a whole community could engage with that.
Thinking of where you come from this morning, what does you as a parish minister, what do others in their role distinctly offer so that people would look to you in terms of mission and older people?
I suppose we were actively pursuing one particular model of developing the work, and we decided to tackle some of the elephants in the room. So we dealt quite openly about dementia and had some very comfortable meetings about a very difficult subject. Mary Marshall, who was formerly with the Dementia Studies Centre in Stirling, absolutely engaged with a very full room, sort of 60, 70 people. Some were families who were dealing with people with dementia, and some were people with dementia themselves. Some were younger people who were just exploring the whole subject. But it was a very, very good dialogue about the issues. So, these were people who came not just from the church, from other churches, and certainly from our local community. The humanists turned out in force as well, which was very encouraging. And so we followed that up with some workshops, sort of smaller workshops about the practical aspects of dealing with dementia. Now, we're hoping that we're a dementia-friendly church, but we're not. That's not our whole being by any means, and we certainly don't want to set older people apart. But we then decided, well, if we got on all right with dementia, let's tackle death. and looked at, Mark Hazelwood came and talked about good life, good death, good grief. And again, large number of people came to talk about something that was clearly a worry in their whole spiritual comfort, if you like. And so, you know, these sorts of subjects have become something that we are prepared to tackle, and that people recognise that that might be something that we can do. I think for everybody. We've also been looking at the ways in which we can engage with the whole wider faith and spirituality question. And an audit of who you have in your congregation is quite useful. You suddenly realise, well, we actually have a very, very practiced person who can deliver godly play. We didn't know about this. I mean, this was, well, we did know about it, but we didn't know that this was quite such an opportunity. Who else is in there? You know, what other agencies in the mainstream are around that we can engage with? So we're not putting ourselves in a box, in a corner, that we're part of the whole wider debate. And I think that's something that we would hopefully feel that we were getting more confident about doing. I think we also have some amazing role models within, you know, when you start doing this audit, you know, who's around? I mean, when a woman of 101 reads the Trist at a Remembrance Day service, I mean, that's a pretty emotional experience, and it's a very powerful message about a clear, firm, solid voice from quite a frail old lady, but it was a very moving experience. But it said a lot of positive things as well. So I think where we are at the moment about this and where we fit into the bigger picture is actually about trying to engage very much in the mainstream, as well as deliver what we see as our faith mission, if you like.
What support do you look to from others to help you to be part of Mission and Older People?
Well, as a church, which is probably reasonably typical, where 50% of the members are over 65, we have a real concern, to put it mildly, about succession planning, because others are going to have to work longer, and you know, we really have that is somewhere that we need to try and find, you know, more people to come in behind us. We're perceiving a gap about how we keep dealing with organising things and running things and managing things. There's an issue around funding. You know, there are dedicated trusts, and we have some sort of individual trusts in the congregation, but this is a great big subject, and you know, action requires money, and so there is a sort of that sort of support, and so being able to, I know as a gamekeeper turned poacher in the funding world, it's very hard being able to fund things, and it's there is a bit of a disincentive around when it's not easy to be able to fund things. So I suppose we need to work hard on legacies and things like that. Call a spade a spade. We need secure funding for staffing as well, because we do need paid people to be following through on this sort of work. And then there's all that practical support that we all need around the things like transport. And it's occurring to me that, you know, we have smart houses now. We've got all this technology that can deal with houses. So surely there must be very smart churches that are possible that will make it so easy for older people and, you know, people as they increasingly age to continue to be able to access the best of their spiritual care.
What is the one message, perhaps out of what we've said, or you've just been saying, I've really been wanting to say this for an awful long time, that you would like to say?
I would like accessible, affordable resources available.